Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact reaction. Today we have a song requested by JK in the comments of the last video, and I was going to do two, but the other one that they specifically asked for, I happen to have accidentally heard already with a prior video that never ended up getting made, and therefore I've heard the song and can't do it, unfortunately. I don't feel right lying to you guys and going like, I've never heard the track when I actually have. So I'm just gonna do this Polish one. I don't know what I'm about to get into. It's fairly short, but hopefully it's really good and good enough for me to yap about it for a while. So without further ado, let's go! Ooh. So I was given the context that this is Hisi Island, kind of near the end of the main quest, but I've obviously never done that, so this is all new to me. The other one would be too if it wasn't for that failed video. I really like that. Oh, man. Ooh. Oh, it expanded. I thought that was the end. Beautiful flute. They always have such good flutes for this area. I think I've glazed the music of Nod Cry plenty, but I mean, when I hear songs like this, what's one more video, am I right? Okay, so what I love about this song is a few things. I like what this song does as far as how it's written, obviously, but the emotional connection that a lot of these chords have to each other is deeper than you would think just based off the simplicity of this song. There's not too much going on there, but what does happen is something that makes the song feel all that more important to itself. So we start out here in the chord of F in the key of A minor, and we just kind of start here. There's that arpeggiating section at the beginning where we have this, and then it goes to the G and goes, and that's that step down, that happens off of that. I love that for a very particular reason. We do have plenty of other chords that we go through in this song, F to G to A minor, of course, and that's the main bulk of what we do, but we also do go down to C, D minor, E minor, up to F. We also do take a moment to hit an E in there just to create some emotional release in the song throughout. But what really gets to me is the A minor thing, because as we build up from that F to the G to the A minor, there is a point, usually at the end of the like chorus phrases, if you want to call them that, where they end on an A sus4 that resolves into the A minor. It's very subtle in the song itself, but this sort of a build does happen, and what this does is add that note in there from our step down. So we have in there, that's finally getting answered. We already have those two in there, but with this being part of that, we now have all four of these notes, and the only one missing is this one, which kind of separates it from the rest of the track. We do have that in the G, that is there, so it's not like it's completely new to the song, but it does create this tension release for the rest of what's going on. And what this does is just really answer a question that the song was prefacing. It's like, how do we get that arpeggiation at the beginning? How does that get answered? Somewhere in the song that has to have some sort of a resolution, because that's how resolving works in music. You want there to be something that feels like it's answering something else, the call and response effect of sorts. So what we get with this is that right there. And the same thing kind of happens when we end on the E, because that is kind of coming up from something like the D minor or the E minor, and then going into that E just to finish it off, you know? It feels And of course that E does work with like the rest of the song. It fits in nicely with the F and everything. It's just the fact that it's in between and usually right after the minor chord of like D minor, for example, it kind of just, you know, fits itself and resolves very nicely. Because if you were to do this to then go straight up to the F, it works, but it kind of jumps too far. You want that like resolve that happens there, especially with the like E minor to E. You could really feel that difference there, but it's usually just going from the D minor to the E. And again, this is the sort of resolution that this kind of A sus4 to A minor does. It just answers a question that we had, and that's coming off the D minor in the prior section. So it's just this, you know, the answers are being answered. The questions that have been asked are getting their answers. And that's one of those basically paramount things you need to do when you're writing a song, is have a resolution somewhere at some point. You can end the song without a resolution. You can let it hang on a final note. I talk about that quite often as well. And while that is also fine and good, just really depends on the vibe you're going for, somewhere in the song there needs to be a tension release. And for this one to kind of add that, to answer it just half a second later and subtly, again, this is very subtle. You don't really get to hear this big separation like I'm exaggerating it to be. You get this different energy of the song that just kind of feels like it's almost like stumbling into that resolution, almost like it's a faint whisper of an answer. It's the type of resolution that would definitely follow something that is emotionally heavy, something where you don't want to slam that in the face of the person who just went through all of this emotional turmoil and trauma right up to this point. You want there to be a subtle response, a subtle answer in the music to just kind of accent the emotional journey the people have been on, not necessarily make it just the forefront thing. So that's why when the song does it and it's very subtle, you don't really feel it, because you've already felt that. You've already been processing the emotion. At least in my opinion, that's the type of story that this sort of thing would work really well with. I'm assuming, based on what I do know of the Nod Cry story, that yeah, it's probably pretty accurate. They probably have something like that, a very emotional story that needs a somewhat subtle backbone to it, but not necessarily slapping you in the face with the information all over again. This is the sort of thing that vocals help out with a lot too, and why this sort of like loose chorus that sings with this, just vocalizing instead of having lyrics, also helps with, because it's just setting a mood. It's not really forcing you into a story, so to speak. It's just resolving the answers that you've already been given and just kind of help fermenting that general vibe of the story that you've gone through. So this is why this song got me, and why I'm able to yap about it so much, is because it's just a good example of storytelling and supporting the story specifically through the soundtrack instead of being the forefront of what's happening. You've already experienced that. You don't need to have that huge monolithic story, that gigantic bolstering sound every single time there's something emotional. That subtlety is what makes a lot of OSTs extremely beautiful and super supportive. That's the point of a supportive OST. Something that isn't necessarily in your face, but definitely reminds you of those emotions that you felt, and make sure that you're able to recall those little intricacies in the story just to make them feel a little bit better, while also working out the final thoughts that you've probably been knocking around in your head since the events actually happened. Just a really very well done song. Shocker from this part of the world. I love the Nod Cry music in general. They're so good at doing this so consistently, but this sort of subtlety is very much important and very much undersung in my opinion. So I'm glad I got to highlight that, at least, because I don't think I've been able to highlight something this subtle quite yet in this game. So that's about all I've got to say. So thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want me to get to something else from Genshin, by all means drop in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!